Hi folks, hope you're all keeping well. This is my reaction to the England against Ireland game. Final score, England 15, Ireland 32. And it was a game that became a mismatch very early on when Charlie Ewels was red carded for a head-to-head collision with James Ryan. He came in very high in the tackle and his head clashed with James Ryan. James Ryan had to go off for an HIA and failed his head injury assessment, so he didn't come back onto the pitch. It was absolutely the right call to red card Charlie Ewels. He had control as to how he came into the contact there. He should have gone lower on Ryan. And the thing is, if World Rugby are wanting to try and eradicate this kind of head contact in the game, they have to be firmer with players who engage with such tackles like that. And it was just the right call because, again, he came in with force. He could have absolutely gone lower, and he smacked James Ryan out cold as he did, and James Ryan had to go off. So, overall, very good refereeing from Mateo Nal there, pardon me, and it was the right call to red card Charlie Ewels. But after that, it became a very interesting game. Ireland obviously saw that with the man advantage, they could run England around more, which they did try to do. They scored a very good try from James Lowe, where they just kept their composure, went through the hands, exploited the man overlap, and James Lowe went over on the left-hand side. But after that, Ireland just seemed to force the game quite a lot. They seemed to be in a rush to actually get to the bonus point victory because they knew the match was in their hands at this point, and then they just took their foot off the pedal a little bit at times. I mean, I know they had that disallowed try from Caelan Doris, which was right because it was knocked forward at the contact as the ball came out. So I think it was Gary Ringrose who knocked it on. But after that, Ireland just seemed to lose their discipline. England had them on toast at scrums for the most part, although I will say there were a few penalty decisions that Mateo Rinal gave in favour of England, which I thought were a bit dubious, and there was a couple other decisions he made where I thought he was because he knew England had a man advantage. He was like maybe just psychologically thinking he's trying to balance it up a bit and gave a few more penalties to England than, there was a few of them that were dubious, but on the other hand, there were other ones that were just silly from Ireland's part. Like there was one when Ian Henderson was chucked up in the line out and just chucked straight across towards England and grabbed onto the England jumper, absolutely in the air, and absolutely no excuse for that. Stonewall penalty. And others where there was a kick on and Johnny Sexton was just in front of Gary Ringrose, didn't make any effort to retreat and just lazily just ran across. Things like that, which are stupid. And the scrum time, it's hard for me to argue that overall, Genge definitely played very well against Tadhg Furlong. Tadhg Furlong, who is one of the best, if not the best, tight heads in the world. And Genge has him on toast for a lot of the times, albeit there were a couple of penalties that were given with the scrum wheeling. One of them definitely, I think Genge and Furlong went down at the same time, which in my opinion should have been a reset scrum, but the referee gave the penalty. And I think that's also a psychological thing with referees as well, is when they see teams that are a bit more on top of the scrum, they're more likely to favour them over the team that are on the back foot, which generally speaking you have to say England were. But you have to say as well, England with 14 men for 78.5 minutes were brilliant. I mean, it was only near the end that they ran out of steam and Ireland ran away from them. But on the whole, they were brilliant. They managed to get it to 15 all. They competed ferociously up front. They played a very sort of old school conservative style rugby where there's a lot of kicking up and under. There's a lot of focus on set pieces and at the breakdown, and as I said, they were brilliant. I mean, Maro Itoje especially was an absolute beast. I thought he had an excellent game. Ellis Genge as well, not just at the scrums but his work around the field. I thought he was excellent. Jack Nowell, who had to play flanker on the scrums, he had an excellent game, both in that position when he was in the scrums, and also on the wing, where he was primarily playing. And Marcus Smith had another very good game as well and kept the points ticking over when they came along. So I think despite the fact they conceded 4 tries, England can be mighty proud of their performance. And the breakdown also surprised me a little bit, considering Tom Curry went off injured early on. But England, they just competed ferociously there, and then when it was 15-all, Ireland did finally start to get their act together more, because I thought they were just really iffy, really sloppy up until that point, and then they took the lead, and then Jack Conan, who I think did actually make a difference in the Irish back row when he came on, because Ireland looked like they were playing with a lot more fluency, with him popping up on the wide channels and giving a bit more variety there. And then he got the try that that sealed the match for Ireland, and then they got a bonus point try from Finlay Bealham, who came on to replace Ty Furlong near the end, and that wrapped up the bonus point for Ireland. So I think, as I said, a very interesting and grueling game, absolutely. But I think England, despite the fact they lost as they did, can be very proud of their performance. And if they can go into the match against France in Paris next week and, produce that level but keep 15 players on the pitch, and also I think they also need to show more variety in attack as well. The last couple of games, they've mostly just relied on Marcus Smith's boot. So I think in attack, they need to get that variety a bit better to cause France problems. But they've got every chance of giving France a good game. I'm still predicting France will win the Grand Slam. But, England have every chance of, ruffling a few feathers over there. As for Ireland, they, of course, take on Scotland next week. And they'll be going into it with a bit of confidence, but I think the fact they were a man advantage for the majority of the game, they'll know there's areas they could have done better. And 2 games in a row where an opponent has been sent off against them. So, I think going to the Scotland game next week, obviously my heart's telling me we've got a chance, but going to Dublin is very, very difficult, and Ireland are absolutely the favourites there, but I hope it's a good game. That's all I've got to say, folks, here. Hope you had a good weekend. Thank you very much for listening to what I have to say. Take care of yourselves, and I'll catch you later on.